Hey, oh my Planet friends, Johnny Five Alive here, and welcome back to another episode of Project PlanCo. This is a bonus episode. We're throwing this in as a little 20.5 episode, as we had some footage from Warmgar. He recorded the whole process of building Project PlanCo from its early inceptions. As you guys can see in the background here, there's basically nothing in this park. A half-constructed centerpiece that eventually became our King Coaster mascot on this massive tower. You see a little bit of a track of cars going back and forth, and that's about it. This is where it all began, and I thought this would be a fun video for you guys to just watch and see how this whole project began. As mentioned, we had this idea of building a city, and that cities can be very complex. So I approached Warmgar with this task because I was so inspired and remembered what he did with his hacker versus programmer action coaster that he made for the action coaster contest. He did some really intricate, crazy city scene that these two dueling coasters. Or wait, I guess it was for the dueling coaster contest. That is right. Yeah, he had these dueling coasters going through a city. So I thought, hey, this guy's already done it before. Why not approach him and ask him if he can, conceptualize a city for us? I gave him the requirements, said, hey, I'd like some traffic, getting some of those car rides going around the streets. But then I want you to incorporate some go-karts into them. And then from there, try to block out some of the surrounding buildings. So this is very, very early prototype footage that you're seeing. He's just blocking out how the road systems are going to work and how it all functions. And honestly, looking at this footage now, stresses me out. It stresses me out. Because for those of you who don't know, just a fun little backstory, I wrote up a GDD, a document for what I wanted this park to be, what it's including, and I made a big design document for everything, probably somewhere early last year. I want to say February 2022. And I kind of outlined everything that I was interested in doing, the premise being I want to Plankify and bring life to all of the characters in Planet Coaster, but then take it one step further by recreating those characters, drawing those characters, and bringing life to the characters that don't currently have a mascot or shop associated to them, but then going even further by including that of the World's Fair, and then incorporating some fun theme park aspects. Most theme parks that you go visit, there'll be a band, an entertainment area where they'll play music and people chill out, get some food, sit down at the picnic tables, and watch a band perform. That's pretty common. So knowing that I had made friends with the Jeffrey from the Bitter Elegance, who has his own band and has played music from that band in his own very creations from the park spotlights that I featured of him. Plus, he works with voice actors and does voice acting himself. And his wife, the lead singer of the Bitter Elegance, also does voice acting teaching and vocal teaching. I just thought, hey, this would be the perfect person to partner with because they perform and we could use their music as sort of something that you would see in a theme park in terms of performance, but then we can also use their music on some of our main attractions. And it just so happened that their music was very family friendly and it had a lot of matching elements to some of the songs. Our Malice in Wonderland works really well with not only Alice in Wonderland, but Missy Goods for Missy in Wonderland. The I Gotta Bounce song worked really good for our bouncing cosmic cow. And this is where I was like, okay, I have a few songs that I really, really like that I envision in my mind that go really well with a lot of the coasters in this conception that I have. So that was my premise, was working with the Bitter Elegance, partnering up with them to use their music in conjunction with our theme park that we're Plankifying and bringing to life, and bringing a little bit of extra love to the characters in Planet Coaster and just taking it to the next level. So I wrote everything in the GDD that I wanted, what songs we're going to be using, what like themed areas we want, which characters belong in which of the themed areas. For example, like Missy Goods, Princess Amelie, Captain Lockjaw, the Fantastic Hatter, all these different characters would be in the fantasy area, and then we'll reserve like Cosmic Cow, Dex R for sci-fi, and so on and so forth. So I wrote down kind of my premises, what I wanted, what should be voice acted, and while I had a pretty good GDD there and a good presentation, everything is subject to change. You know, that was our original vision, and I'll probably make it public to people at some point so you can kind of see where we went. But in that document, my base layout for the park was like city in the center with stuff around the sides and World's Fair around the actual city. That's all I had, and that's all Wormgar had to go on. So he's kind of blocking out the city and has to basically determine what will eventually become the plots that you guys, the creators, have built, and you guys, the viewers, have seen the creators build, that I am now, you know, placing into the park and turning into content for the channel. So it's just a very long process, and last year I had suffered some depression because of my living situation and family situation, stuff that I don't really want to get into too deeply in this video here, but I had stopped producing content as frequently as you guys were used to. There was a bit of a lull in the videos in 2022, and I wasn't doing a whole lot of content. So the project naturally came to a bit of a standstill. It went on pause. And then when I came back later in the year after the summer had ended and decided to reboot the channel, bring back the spotlights, get things cranking again, and really get the mojo back after fighting through my demons, I guess, found that spark again, found my mojo, I decided, hey, you know, it's going to bother me forever if I don't see this project through. And it just so happened that Wormgar also hit a roadblock. I checked in on with him, see how he was doing, and he was struggling. He got this project to a certain state to which he was struggling to progress further. As you can see, what he's building in the background is very intricate, very complicated, very ornate, and combining a city junction with roads, go-karts, cars, dueling coasters, and making that all work so that the guests can also walk on the sidewalks. It's a very tall order and a very complicated task. And where he got stuck was around a point of which he didn't really know where to go with the coasters. And at the time, I was featuring, I want to say it was Beartastic, or it might have been Beartastic. I'm sorry if I'm mistaken there. But somebody did a log flume coaster with a mod, and I featured that and showing what the mod can do, and it actually got Wormgar quite excited because he thought that he might be able to use that mod to overcome some of the challenges that he was having with the coasters. And I'm not sure if he actually if that was the actual cause of him to find the solutions he was looking for. But we sat down and talked about it, and I kind of discussed with him, like, what are you having troubles with? What is the vision? What's going on here? How can I help? And that's when we decided that the city was too small. And he was struggling with that. But we wanted the city to be quite small because we didn't want scope creep, and we know that Planet Coaster will eventually crawl to a very low FPS on very big projects. And we knew that the city needed to be small if we're going to also have other themed areas within the park. But it just so happened that the amount of space that you need to run a coaster around and get it back to its stations and actually be somewhat interesting would in fact require a lot more work. It would require more space. So I said, hey, why don't we like expand the coaster out to here? We'll add more city blocks in. We'll add a whole new section to the city and elaborate on it further. And we'll actually break the borders of the whole park. And that should give you some room to work with. And in fact, it did. And after that conversation, he was able to finish up quite smoothly and head in the right direction. But what you don't like, what the time that is lost between all that. How's this going? You're gonna get back working on it. Da 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 da. Let's see where you're at. Oh, I got stuck. Several months passed by, and it wasn't until this year where at some point, it was a Christmas time of 2022 or early this year, where we had that conversation and helped him overcome those hurdles because things were taking a long time. And I wasn't at the time too adamant about pushing the project forward. Now, I knew that Park Beyond was around the corner, so part of me wanted to make sure we at least got this project going so that if I am making Park Beyond content, that there is at least progress on this to a point where I don't want to abandon this project, that there's enough work done and enough videos rolling out that I can still focus my efforts on something else while also seeing this through. And the more I can get done before Park Beyond drops, the better. And so it all started coming together. Wormgar found his mojo, and he started to make strides to a point which I could then find my level designer, which was turned out to be Batch. And Batch has done some amazing parks, some amazing mega parks. He has a really good eye for detail, very good design philosophies. So talking with him, we built a bit of a communication on how to make the plots. The blocks that ultimately became the plots that the community built was all thanks to Batch. But in order to get there, Wormgar kind of needed to set him up with a base park with a finished functional dueling coasters and functioning go-karts. So that's where I was going back to the top of the video saying that this gives me a little bit of anxiety or stress seeing this speed build going in the background because of the process that went into this. It was like a conceptualized document passed over, and what you're seeing here in the speed build, he was sending me screenshots along the way last year showing me where he's at. And I was in communication with Chant, and she was drawing characters for us, many which have been updated and new and improved with her new drawing style because she's improved on her methods. So it's like I had to bring Chant back into the fold again as well, and she's more invested than ever before. Last year she was just kind of doodling some characters for us to see if it would be something we're interested in, and we definitely were. But now she's like on, trying to deliver all of the characters, get them up to her current quality of drawing. And now she's also been helping out with a lot more than just the characters. She's participating in the contest. She joined in for the contest videos as a special guest to help judge them and be a co-host on that. She's helping me with a special music video and just so much more. So Chant has been a massive help. Wormgar, none of this would have been possible without him doing what you're seeing right now, and then setting it up for the alley-oop to Batch. And then Batch, because he's so knowledgeable in TMTK, was also able to take... And what you're seeing here is something that Cody Bits made. So Cody Bits had a hand in this as well, creating this terraforming structure, allowing us to make the King Coaster. So shout out to Cody Bits, and thank you for doing that. And I guess Wormgar actually filled in the terrain, but Cody Bits made the shell that allowed you to make a perfect sphere, which is not easy to do. But yeah, Batch, being so knowledgeable in TMTK, he was able to take all the Chance drawing and turn them into characters for our shops, facilities, and things around the project itself. So Wormgar, Cody Bits, Chant, and Batch, all very integral. And I can't forget about Zafor. Zafor helped me with the documentation and the planning things out. And then more and more people get added in. Demona Leeson's been helping with the QA as recently, and the project keeps growing and more names keep coming on board. And now that all grows into the giant credits that will eventually be every single builder that's made something for this park is going to have their names in the credits. And it's like a handful of people with a small idea that I came up with slowly conceptualized this thing over the course of an entire year to eventually get it to the point which you guys are watching now. And that's where I think this is a very important video to look at and talk about, and, you know, it gives me a chance to explain some of this stuff and look back at where it all began. And hopefully it gives you guys a little bit more appreciation, because you don't just come up with a gray block of a city with dueling coasters, go-karts going through it, yada, 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 and a giant concept with bringing characters to life and having drawings and TMTK for them and custom songs for main attractions. Like, there's so many things working behind the scenes that I had to micromanage and set up, that's where I get stressed out thinking about it, because it was such a tall order that, looking back at it, I originally said I don't want this to be a Candyland 2.0, because Candyland was one of the biggest parks ever created in Planet Coaster. And that thing just went on forever, and there's so much details. And Chant just made us the largest map ever conceptualized by expanding the borders and making these massive terrains. And even that's kind of funny thing to point out. Chant was the queen of Candyland. She made the terrain. She thought of the idea, and here she is participating in this. But this time, she's taken a different role. It's not her idea, it's my idea, and she's helping me bring it to life. So I appreciate the role switching there, and that's quite fun. But yeah, I didn't want this to be a Candyland 2.0, but in theory, while the park isn't as big as Candyland, and it won't have, like, look at Fairground Farms, we had like 200, 300 submissions, and the way we did things back then was, just make me candy stuff that's farm related, and I'll see if I can fit it into the park and use it somehow. I would take people's blueprints, modify them, place them, rotate them, and I built the areas of that park based off of what people provided. Not everyone's blueprints made it into the park, but I tried to get as many as I could. But there was just so many blueprints, and we did that for every single area, that we level designed the park using people's blueprints as our brushes. And we just did broad strokes, filling in all of these areas and all of the stuff with people's things. Whereas this time around, we're saying this is what we need, and we're going to let you guys sign it out and compete for the spots and compete for the attractions. And while that might seem like there's going to be less parts overall and less builds overall, and it's more organized, less free fall, a little bit more structure to it, it actually kind of ends up being more work for me. While the actual building process of Candyland had a lot more stuff going on, this actually is so much more organized, so much more picture perfect, so well planned. There's so much going on, so many working pieces, knobs, and different behind the scenes stuff. So many people involved, from music, voice acting, and you know, just assigning plots and managing who's working on what, and are they moving along, are they getting it done, are they going to finish in a timely manner. There's a lot more structure to it, and that structure takes time to implement, takes time to organize, and it requires constant attention. And since we announced this project and the plots were ready and Batch finished his thing, I've been basically working on this project probably 40 to 60 hours a week on top of anything else I have going on. And it is one of the reasons Park Spotlights have slowed down. The amount of recording, placing, editing, you know, just for a single episode, it's not as simple as record it and edit it. I have to actually place them down and check for issues and fix things and tweak things, and there's just a lot more involved. And I've been constantly babying the project, making sure that things are on track, and it's taken a lot of time just being an active member on Discord, seeing where things are at, planning the contests. So again, this is like one of the most complicated projects that I've ever been a part of, even more so than Candyland. But I do think at the end of the day, the scope of this project, like the size, looking at the project when it's done, it's going to look more structured, more detailed, and more fun like a theme park than Candyland, where Candyland was this vast, never-ending fantasy of candy, and it was really quite incredible. But it was also super laggy and just an abomination by the end of everything. So I still think that this project is kind of bigger than Candyland when you take in all of the things that I just mentioned. And that's why seeing the early developments of this gets me stressed out a little bit, because part of me thought I planned things out in such a way where this should, in theory, be less work than Candyland and less stressful, but I underestimated that. But it's okay, because I had a window of opportunity, and I was an active member on Discord. I actively worked on this project every day for the last several months, and because of that, I was able to produce for you guys what you're seeing now is 21 episodes of crazy content of a theme park coming together. And I think at the time of recording this, I have like another 10 already recorded that I'm going to edit very soon. And those should roll out all the way until the end of July. And from there, I have no idea what's happening next. And it will require my attention again. And we're looking at main attractions, other themed areas, and I'm going to have to get fully on board with everything all over again. And it's really quite a lot. It's a lot to think about. Especially if I haven't mentioned this, but I'm going to be moving. I don't know when this video will air specifically, but it could be possible that this airs after I've moved. But I'm moving July 9th, settling on the 10th and of 2023. So I've tried to make enough Project PlanCo content to run out at about the time that I'm able to get back to work, but I still want to cover Park Beyond and some other stuff, and I need to get back to Park Spotlights. So there's a lot. When you just think of Project PlanCo, there's a lot to get overwhelmed by, and I'm actually quite surprised that I handled everything quite well, and that I actually got the city to be complete. At the time of this, you guys are watching this video, the city is not complete, but me recording it, every 82 out of 82 plots are in. And now I've got the main attraction people working on their main attractions. I got people working on all bits of the main stuff for the other areas. And hopefully the magic wand happens where all of their stuff goes into the park without any errors, and we have all these amazing main attractions. And we go right back to gray blocking the areas like we did with the city. And if all goes well, then we go straight back into, cranking out plots. The community builds the plots very, very quickly. And that is why things went so smooth, because the power of the community. So it is the community that made it easy to make this possible. If I had to build all these plots myself, I would have been overwhelmed and quit this project long ago. It becomes an endeavor, it becomes tedious, it becomes so never-ending and time-consuming. But it's thanks to this community that I was able to just focus on placing them, recording, and editing. That's what I do best, is talking, recording, editing. That's my mojo. I'm a content creator. And I even managed to make a build or help out and collaborate on several of the builds because I'm not so exhausted to the point where I'm building. I'm not burnt out on the aspect of actually playing the game. So I was able to contribute and build things here and there. And I get to do little side projects like making these speed builds or talking about the project, and then doing some music videos, contests, making sure all those contests are fun, and hosting those. So I get to work on all of that stuff in between. But again, looking at this now, where we are here today, I had no idea how much involvement there was and it's like looking at this is like a step back in time. And that step back in time, I want to say, is like 500 plus hours of involvement from me. And it's like, wow. I look at this and think if I had to start from here all over again, I wouldn't do it. But that's only knowing what I know now. When you're doing things one step at a time and you're only looking at the next step, the next rung on the ladder, and you just keep taking one step, and you never look at the top of Everest, it's not too bad, right? But I've already taken 5,000 steps and I'm halfway up the mountain, and I realize how difficult it was. And I'm just glad that the work is done. And being said, it's not that hard to push on forward because I'm already halfway up the mountain. But there's still much, much more to go with this project. I don't think at this point I'm at the halfway mark yet, but I've had so much fun and the project is shaping up so well that I just can't wait to start developing these other areas other than the city. But it all began with the city, and that's what you're seeing here today. So that's really, really cool to take a trip back in time. And even from the very beginning of this video where I started talking to what you're seeing here now in this video, look how much Warmgar has done in the time of me just ranting about the project. We can actually see functioning traffic, a monorail. He's fleshing in some paint. The go-karts are in. I think we watched him build some of the coasters at this point. At least block them in and get them kind of structured. So this is something that Warmgar had to do over months. You know, this is sped up to like 20 times speed. He's got a full-time job. He's a busy guy. And he's trying to put in a few hours here and there and get this going. And like I said, he eventually gets to a point where he's built these coasters and he hits a wall. And I'm not sure if any of that's included here, but, you know, what you guys saw in yesterday's video, you got to see the finished product of the coasters racing through the city. And not just the coasters. Fully themed city. Every single building in the city as backdrop scenery to theme these coasters. When he's building this at this time, and me looking at this now, we had no idea what, you know, you saw a little glimpse of the coaster going by. You see it from its POV when he's testing this thing. You have no idea what it's going to look like from that perspective. We just know that we'll hopefully come up with something cool. And the crazy thing is, we absolutely did. We did as a community. And we have to praise Batch again for his amazing city planning skills, like his ability to block out and plot all the buildings with the part counts that he set, the rules that he set. And, you know, I feel like he kind of ballparked it and nailed it. Some people didn't have enough pieces, but we gave them a little more. Some people had probably too many, but they still built it with less. But generally, the part count has been managed in a way where it's the least amount possible for the best amount of quality. And while the park is heavy and lagging to this day, and we haven't even started on the other themed areas, well, we have, without even looking into fantasy or sci-fi or anything like that, we have a very successful project, in my opinion. We have dueling coasters that are like the coolest dueling voice-acted coasters that race through a city with the most amazing theming that we've ever seen. Nobody's ever done anything like this or remotely close to this in Planet Coaster history. So that, to me, is a success. That, to me, is a win. And then we also have one of the most, if not the best, go-kart track ever created. It's the best go-kart track because it actually races through a city across sidewalks with people walking around, dueling coasters racing around that, traffic down below, monorails up above, and it's racing through a hyper-detailed city that takes up hundreds of thousands of pieces, and building a city in and of itself is one of the biggest tasks that, well, it's only ever been done by other collabs like PlanCoville from Sublimes and others. So, it takes a community to build up a city to this detail, and this community absolutely delivered on that. So you're getting theming on a go-kart that literally takes hundreds of thousands of people to build that theming. So that's why I think it is literally the best go-karts ever created, not only because it has so much visual details, but the actual complexity of how the coasters navigate an actual city is cool. It's not just like there's a circuit running around some cool sci-fi Tron city or something like we've seen in the past, and there's just stuff in the background. No, this is a fully interactive city. You could walk down every street, every sidewalk. The guests will actually do that, and do that during our go-kart riding experience. And then there's, just so many levels of detail. So it's a very complicated task in and of itself. But with that, we are now getting our contest submissions in to complete our World's Fairs, and we have the next World's Fair contest started, which is building the last 4 centerpieces that include rides. So once those are in, then in theory, this park also has multiple flat rides. So you'll have 2 coasters, a go-kart, and 4 rides. And that is a nice handful, it's got a couple handfuls of rides and attractions, making a city theme park. And we could probably hang our hat up high saying that we did a good job, and Project PlanCo is an amazing project, and we could stop at a point of which the frame rate is actually still decent, but it still doesn't feel complete without the full vision, being sci-fi, fantasy, adventure, western, and spooky. And just thinking about that gives me a bit of a heartache right there. It's really a tall order. There's a lot still left to do, but I was smart about things, and in order to avoid scope creep, my plan with those areas was and will be to make them smaller. So I think the city had about 80 something plots, and we're gonna have probably about 10, between 10 and 20 for each of the 5 themed areas. So if that is how it works, we have between 10 and 20 for 5 themed areas. Then you're dealing with 50 to 100 plots for those 5 themed areas. But the creators making the attractions are also theming their rides like really insane. Where all the rides in the city, those were themed by the plots. That's the difference. So if there is 50 to 100 plots for all 5 of the areas combined, you would think, okay, there's a lot less pieces than in the city. These 5 areas combined have less pieces than the city. Not true, because they have plots plus main attractions with theming. So we look at something like Ellie's Shooting Ride, it's going to incorporate a whole bunch of theming, or Missy in Wonderland coaster is going to have a whole bunch of mushrooms and theming. That all of this theming combined, we're going to be looking at like several 4K blueprints to get those in. And that is equivalent to a lot of plots. Very, very many plots, like a dozen plus. So I think the amount of pieces going into these rides could technically count for a dozen plus plots. So it's probably going to be about the same amount of plots as the main city for all 5 areas combined, but then another 50% more piece count just for theming those coasters and those main attractions. So yeah, the frame rate's not looking too great right now. And if we double everything, the frame rate's going to be half of what it is now. So it will kind of be heavy and probably feeling like a Candyland-ish, but I still think overall it should still run better than Candyland. And Batch has a supercomputer. He claims that he gets like 10, 15 FPS more than me on Candyland and Megaparks. And 10, 15 FPS is a major, major difference. And I know everyone would love to see an extra 10, 15 FPS in some of my videos on these Megaparks. Batch's computer is also worth like $8,000. So maybe one day, through the support of the patrons, and if you guys keep watching all my videos, I can save up for a supercomputer that has just a ton of VRAM, a ton of processing power. That's even, my computer's not that old. I think it's only like 2-3 years old. The graphics card maybe 5 years old. But upgrading the graphics card doesn't solve the problem. The CPU is pretty heavy, and you need more power for the power supply to support a new GPU. At that point, you're looking to just get a new motherboard to support all that and a new power supply. So you might as well just build a new computer. And I'm not ready to throw away what cost me, I think this computer cost me just over $4,000. And that investment wasn't too long ago. So while I would love to do that, I'm not ready to do that at least this year. And maybe we can get to it next year. But worst case scenario, Batch is able to help me with the recordings and the presentation of this park if the frame rate starts to, plummet. So, and we always had Cheat Engine that I got through Candyland on an older computer than what I have now, and I managed that by using Cheat Engine. So Cheat Engine just slows the game down, and then you can speed up the recordings in post. It's not ideal for riding rides though, because it will screw up triggers, but it does help present certain things. And for the most part, we can ride most of the rides with Cheat Engine. So we have plans, so I'm not too worried about going, hey, let's finish those 5 other areas. But it is a concern to me, and I know that I have to keep scope creep down. So that, again, going into Sci-Fi Land, you'll see 2 boarding stations, you'll see a couple Cosmic Cow shops, a couple Dexar shops, some sci-fi theming, and that's it. It's not going to be a giant sprawling sci-fi theme park area like the city is, because we just simply, it's impossible to do that in Planet Coaster. And in some ways, that's a project in and of itself. We could have done 5 different parks, a sci-fi PlanCo park and a adventure, but then, that's also a massive endeavor. So I think we found a nice balancing act of getting just the right amount of everything. And I think sci-fi, Western, spooky, all of these areas are going to be amazing. You're going to feel like you had a great sci-fi experience, and it's not going to be like this never-ending long voyage where it becomes redundant and repetitive. I have gone to some theme parks that have massive, massive spooky areas, and by the end of it, I'm like, get me out of here. Get me out of here. It's just too much, right? Some things can be overdone, and there's a time and time to call it quits and move on to other things, and finding just the right amount. And part of that inspiration comes from creators like MKP, Nimzel. He makes a themed area generally with one attraction. That one attraction really takes you through all of the theming of that area. It surrounds the theming of that area. And then the theming is for a few shops, a boarding station, and all the scenery that coaster or attraction explores. And when you walk into that themed area, it has that wow factor. Then you get to explore just a little bit, but not for too long. and then you get more of that experience going on the ride. And we're taking that approach with our themed areas, but maybe having an extra ride, maybe 2 rides per area, because we have so many amazing characters and concepts. So yeah, this is a lot to go over. So I was originally just going to release this as a speed build with music for you guys to watch, but I figured, hey, you know what? There's a lot of behind the scenes and discussion and interesting things for you guys to know about with the project that I never really got an opportunity to fully elaborate on. And I think if you're just watching this on a second monitor, it's a bit of a podcast, I guess, a discussion video of me telling the backstory from when the park first was created all the way to what it is now and what our plans are going forward. And it just makes for something interesting to listen to while you get to see what Wormgar's doing here. And I can't really speak to what he's doing here. I think it speaks for itself. You know, he's building a sewer system right now for the coaster to go through, and he's making all these pieces. I don't really want to give a play-by-play on what he's doing and why, because I know why he's doing it, but I don't really know what was going through his mind while he was doing it. And I'll let you guys, you know, make those assumptions for yourself. But at the end of the day, he did a really good job figuring it out. And I know when I saw what he did, I was very, very impressed by it and very happy. And it did set the foundation for what we have here today. And in the full coaster spotlight, with the fully created, fully voice acted, fully themed coasters that you guys would have experienced in yesterday's video. So everything that I've talked about, it's all incorporated into what began in this recording here. And that's really crazy to take a step back in time and see where it all started and where we arrived at here today, and then discuss a little bit about where we're going forward from here. So I didn't really have a script. I don't really have any bullet points. I just kind of was talking and thinking about new things to talk about as we proceed through this recording. I'm trying to think. I kind of covered a little bit of everything with the project. Now, I guess I could talk more about what we're doing and going forward. So at the time of this recording, as mentioned, I have all 82 plots in. And you guys would have saw that in yesterday's video because it was a fully themed coaster. Now going forward, all the videos from here on out will be actually getting those in. I brought back the placement and setup because it was requested by so many people. So I'm actually setting them up, fitting them in, talking about it while I do it. So that returns in the future videos here. And we're going to take a closer look, which, you know, was briefly teased at while riding the coasters. You didn't get to really see all 4 sides of these buildings. You didn't get to look at all the details. You didn't get to go inside and explore them. And that's what we'll be doing here on out, is getting all the episodes out that lead to getting the city finished. And at this very moment, that's where I'm at. The park has been sitting on my workshop for the contest. I have not currently placed the contestants into the park. And the contest at the time of this recording just finished a few days ago in terms of the videos being released. So while I was very, very far ahead on the recordings, days are quickly catching up to my recordings. And it won't be until the end of July where I run out of content, but that will come very, very quickly. In the meantime, I have absolutely nothing I can record. So I told all of the builders that are making the main attractions. So we have our Western, spooky, sci-fi, fantasy, and adventure main attractions all being worked on by different people simultaneously, and a Captain Lockjaw, a pirate area. So those are all being worked on simultaneously on other versions of the park, which then need to be imported in by blueprinting them, and then the terraforming needs to be finalized. So there is a crazy stressful moment where I told everybody to try to finish by the end of July, because that's when I'm actually running out of videos for you guys. But if they all finish at the end of July, there's going to be no videos for you guys for August. I have no idea what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be scrambling to try to make sure that as of right now, we've been doing 2 Project PlanCo videos a week. And that has been quite fast, actually. You know, it means I have to actually make sure I have 2 episodes ready for you guys every single week. And as fast as I was working and as far as ahead as I have been, it's hard to stay ahead even just with 2 a week. That's really, really crazy. So now you guys are catching up to me, and you're going to catch up to me even faster because I'm not producing anything. There's nothing left for me to do other than manage things, check up on people, help people out, ask people if they need anything. And what we have been working on is, well, first I'm recording these videos and editing them. That's a lot of work in and of itself. But we've been doing some side projects that you'll see some flair added to the park that are going to make things a little bit more interesting. And that's something that's going on there. I'm going to have Batch go in, and I'm going to place right now I have the park in the hands of a Western team. A whole team of people are working on the shooting ride. All I know is they have some steampunk Miss Ellie shooting adventure, and they're putting it in and assembling it and doing the terraforming right now. And then when I get it back, I'm going to put the contest submissions in, the 4 winners. Then I pass it to Batch, and he's going to record himself speed building the polish. Because Main Street's just a giant street right now. It needs planters, it needs benches, it needs interesting things. And a lot of the areas on the outsides of the city are bare. So we need to add trees, bushes, those types of things, little lampposts, benches, like I said. So there's a lot of little polish, a little bit of paint work, a little bit of terrain adjustments that all need to be made. So it helps to have those 4 contest submissions in. And I'm going to actually work with Batch. So he's going to basically make that episode. And I think that one will end up being like another milestone. I think Batch's polish video should end up being like episode 30, which would, in theory, at 2 a week, be 5 weeks from this video going live. And hopefully, after that, I've already somehow managed to... My plan going forward is to hopefully get some of these main attractions in before we run out of content for you guys. And I hope everyone's not like, oh, it's July 30th, my ride is done, can I get it in? Because we have 6, 7, 8 different people making rides all at the same time. Each person's going to need at least 3 to 5 days to get their ride in with the terraforming done. And I think each ride could potentially hold up the park for an entire week, which is an entire week that I can't make any content on or place any plots or do anything for the series. So everything just kind of bottlenecks. And my whole idea of only releasing 2 a week was that we would get so far ahead that all that stuff would be taken care of by the time the viewers caught up to where we are in the project. To my surprise, 2 a week might have been too fast. But 1 a week seems like it'll drag on forever. But as you guys know, making parks is not easy. It takes a lot of time. And even at the rate that I've been releasing them, the project from start to finish, in terms of viewership, only took a couple months. And we were working even faster on the back end. But like I said, everything bottlenecks eventually, and that's where I'm getting nervous. So in an ideal world, what happens is some of these main attractions get placed into the park. Then from there, I'm able to make some plots and we can get people working on that stuff. Or I can make a bunch of videos on the main attractions to buy us some more time. Then we launch all of the plots simultaneously. That's what my plan is. I want to open up sci-fi, spooky, western, fantasy, all at the same time, so people can choose what theme they want to work on. Someone really is inspired by fantasy, they could choose fantasy, but they will miss out on the other themes. So that way, when I'm making new content for you guys, whatever's done, whatever's coming in, we can do like a little western video. Then we could jump over to spooky next. Then we could jump over to sci-fi. And rather than jumping around different districts and areas of the city, we will jump around different themed areas. And I think that's the plan going forward. But in order for that to happen, we have like 8 rides that have to go in all around the same time. So this is a small disclaimer. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you for that. Thank you for listening to the behind the scenes and the ranting of the project. But just heed a little warning here that come August, there might be a Project PlanCo video shortage based off of the struggles of managing getting 8 rides in all at the same time, then gray blocking and planning the plots for 5 different areas simultaneously so that we can launch the next chapter of the project. And that is a lot to deal with and a lot to manage. Plus, I'm in the middle of moving. By the time you guys are watching this, I would have literally moved into an entirely different place in the province. And that's a lot of stress there, plus Park Beyond. So there's a lot going on for me. It's taken 100% of my attention. And with that said, if you guys appreciate all of this content and the work that goes into it, please do consider supporting through Patreon. I really appreciate it, guys. Views haven't been that great on this project compared to Park Spotlights, and revenue has dipped, and it's concerning to me, and I'm struggling a little bit. So any help is going to definitely help out. But in order to do more fun contests and projects like this going forward, I need to actually also produce Park Spotlights to at least keep up a little bit of revenue to keep the lights on, and I have not been doing that. So it's been struggle city for me, monetarily speaking, but I'm doing it because I have a lot of passion for this community and project, and there's a certain point where I'm going to have to slow that down. Yeah, so just letting you guys know everything that's going on, but that is the plans going forward. And look at what Warmgar has done. The city is now kind of where you guys see it, where it started before it got passed over to Batch for all the plots, which then the community built. And it's a long process. It's been a long time coming, but look at where we are here today. We did it. We accomplished a lot. It's been absolutely fantastic. And I'm so glad I was able to get through all this without having a complete meltdown. But we stuck through it, we got through it, and we have an amazing park and an amazing build. And it's all thanks to the beginnings here from Mr. Warmgar. So give a shout out to Warmgar, guys. That's going to do it for this video here today. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye now.
Proud, but had doubts, can't see